Hello and welcome to this short video which is going to cover the assessments that you'll be asked to complete during your entrance testing day with us for 11 plus entry at Exeter School. We're now going to hear from Mr. Andrew Dobson, who is going to talk a bit about the English assessment that you're going to be asked to do.
Good afternoon, my name is Andrew Dobson, I'm the Head of English at Exeter School, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about the entrance examinations 11 plus, 12 plus, 13 plus and 14 plus and what that involves. So essentially, what are we assessing? Broadly speaking, we're assessing reading and writing, and so each examination paper will contain a reading passage, and we're assessing skills such as reading for gist, looking for detail, giving us a sense also of what a writer's doing, the sense of a writer making conscious choices to create, for example, ideas about characters or ideas about atmosphere. As we go up the age range, we expect more. So, for example, when you're looking at 14 plus entries, you can probably expect to get a fairly literary piece of writing, and we would at that level be expecting candidates to be able to talk about what you might describe as the writer's craft and how that works. We don't assess content when we assess for reading. So, for example, we're not going to ask you to find a simile or personification or whatever. But by all means, if candidates find it useful to talk about literary features in a way that shows an understanding of the text, then we would, of course, encourage that. What I would not encourage is what's often referred to as feature spotting, and so that sense of they're not really reading the text, they're just sort of looking for perhaps things they've been pre-taught to look for, things like similes or metaphors or whatever. What we're interested in very fundamentally is how well candidates can read and what they can tell us about the text that they have read. We're also assessing writing, of course, and essentially we don't prescribe a list of text types, but we're not going to ask pupils to, or rather candidates to, write anything that we don't think they can write. I mean, examples of the things we would look to ask candidates to write would be obviously creative writing or speeches, that kind of thing, letters. And we're looking for accurate writing, we are looking for descriptive, evocative writing, and again, as you go up the age ranges, I think our expectations quite understandably are going to raise there or be risen there. And so, for example, at 14 plus, we would certainly be looking for that sense of purpose and audience, the idea that we have a writer who is writing for a purpose to someone, even if ultimately that person is a group of English teachers in a room marking entrance examinations. I'll talk about spelling briefly. Spelling is assessed, but what I would say quite strongly is if candidates know a really good word but they're unsure as to how to spell it, they should still go for that word, because the fact that they can't spell it is one thing, but the fact that they evidence knowledge of a good adventurous word in terms of their writing is something that obviously is in their favour and is something that we would we would like to see there. Finally, really just to talk briefly about handwriting. We don't assess formally for handwriting, but obviously if candidates are writing in a way that's not legible, that is going to impact on their marks. And actually, another thing I would say very briefly, just based on my experience of setting and marking these exams for a number of years now, in the writing section, please write more than one paragraph. It's very difficult to award marks if a candidate only writes one paragraph, and we do specifically say in the examination that candidates should write more than one paragraph. Paragraphing is evidence of the ability to structure and organise a narrative or a letter or whatever it happens to be, and if it's not there, it can be quite problematic actually. Hopefully that gives you a flavour of where we're coming from when we set the entrance examinations. However, I have written some fairly detailed guides for parents and candidates, and so I would very much encourage you to look at those. They do sort of give you examples of questions and examples of the sorts of things we ask, and so that should provide you with more resources in advance of the entrance examination process. Thank you. I am the Head of English. It's been good to talk to you, and the best of luck.
And now we're going to hear from Mrs. Emma Cartwright, our Head of Mathematics, who's going to talk a bit about our maths assessment.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Emma Cartwright and I'm Head of Maths here at Exeter School. I'm going to be talking to you about the maths entrance test that you'll be sitting in January. Now firstly, we don't want you to feel nervous about this test. The questions on the test will only be the same sort of questions as you will see in the practice test that looks like this. On the left, the questions are on the left hand side. There is space for you to do working in the middle and the answers go on the right hand side here. If you haven't yet seen a paper like this, please ask our admissions department to send you one, as working through these questions is the best way to prepare. We ask you to take this test just so that we can be sure that when you get here you'll be okay. Even if maths is not your strongest point, you might be really good at English, or you might be a great musician or an excellent sports person. The head will look at the whole person, so it's not a disaster if there is an area that you're not quite as good at. Let's have a look at a couple of maths problems that we would normally show you in our 11 plus taster morning. So I don't know if you can see these very well, but hopefully you can see that at the top here I've got a question that says 4/5 times 35. So you can have a little think about whether you might know how to answer that. And it would probably be helpful to know that in maths, times means the same as of. So I could actually rewrite this as 4/5 of 35. So if I wanted to work that out, the first step I'd want to take is to work out what 1/5 of 35 is. And I do that by dividing 35 by 5. And that gives me 7. So what I've worked out there is that 1/5 of 35 is equal to 7. Now if I know what 1/5 of 35 is, to work out what 4/5 is, I just need to multiply my answer by 4. So 4 times 7 gives me the answer of 28. Let's have a look at our second question. So up here it says 15% of £8. So I want to work out what 15% of that amount is. Well, there's lots of different ways of doing that. One of the best ways of doing it is to work out what 10% of £8 is. So I'm going to start with that. 10% of £8. Well, we're starting with 100% here, aren't we? So if I want 10%, I'm going to have to divide that into 10 equal parts. So I'm going to do 8 divided by 10, which gives me 0.8, or 80 pence if you like. But I need 15%, so the next thing I'm going to do is work out what 5% of £8 is. Well, 5% is half of 10%, isn't it? So now I can divide my 0.8 by 2 and get 0.4, or 40 pence. How am I going to put that all together then to get 15%? Well, I know what 10% is and I know what 5% is. So 15% is going to be the sum of those two. So 15% of £8 is 0.8 plus 0.4, which is 1.2. And that means our answer is £1.20.
This very brief video is going to cover the basics of the computer-based test that forms part of our 11 plus, 12 plus, 13 plus and 14 plus entrance assessments, that is, for entry into years 7, 8, 9 and 10 at Exeter School. A significant aim of this video is to reassure you about the test itself and the fact that you cannot do any subject-specific preparation for it. On your entrance testing day, you will sit at a computer and the program will ask you to answer questions that are either based on verbal reasoning, that's related to words and sentences, non-verbal reasoning, related to other skills such as pattern matching, and finally some mathematical reasoning. These sections on verbal, non-verbal and mathematical skills assess important foundations that lead to further learning. For a very small number of candidates, you might have already set a test very similar to this one at another school already, but before sitting it as part of the assessment day at Exeter School. I just want to reassure you, if you realise this when you are starting the assessment, then please don't worry, you don't need to tell anyone, just carry out the test as normal and do the best that you can. The whole thing is split into sections and takes just under an hour to complete. There are some very clear instructions that go along with each section, and also some example questions at the start of each separate section. And these are designed to prevent any undue stress, to help make sure that you understand what you're being asked to do. For some questions, there are multiple choice answers where you select one answer. In others, you're asked to drag and drop the right answer into the correct place. In some other questions, you need to complete a blank space with the correct word. So in terms of what content you might be asked, this is the same as required for the written English and maths papers. Importantly, this innovative test is designed to provide a reliable, fair and comprehensive assessment, and is designed also to be taken without any prior practice, to enable you to demonstrate your academic potential and ability without the need for coaching and excessive preparation. The assessments support developed abilities in reading and maths that rely on a genuine understanding rather than learning through repetition.
Hello, I'm Harry. Hello, I'm Anna. And last year in 2019 we sat the 11 plus exam. So I was quite nervous beforehand, but then once you started getting into the questions and reading the questions, you just kind of felt like it was a practice exam, like the ones you did at home or the ones you sat at school. All you have to do is really read the question once or twice and just don't panic, because panicking can just make your mind bubble up with everything. So I was quite slow at writing, so during the summer holidays and Christmas holidays I practiced writing 2 pages in 40 minutes to help speed it up. I did lots of maths practice because I wasn't very good at maths, but I've definitely improved. So I would recommend practicing your weaker spots. So as my reading is my strongest point, I probably found that the easiest, and then I found the maths pretty hard, and as long as you spend quite a bit of time on the harder questions that get you more marks, then you should be okay. And I also found the writing exercises quite easy as well. I found English the easiest because I really like English. I definitely found maths the hardest. I still do find maths hard. But verbal reasoning I find quite fun because it's like puzzles. And I don't really like non-verbal reasoning. It was a bit hard, but it's just really shapes and it's a bit like maths. So the teachers were really helpful, after you'd done an exam, they'd come and say, how did you find that? Are you okay? Are you enjoying the look around the school a bit as well? Yes, they were very supportive, and as Harry said, they showed us around the school a bit. And we had a break in between 2 exams. So yeah, they were very nice. So I just really read the question, make sure you know what the question's asking you before you answer it, and just try your hardest, because that's all you can do. Yeah, just try your hardest on the questions that have the most marks. If you don't understand a question, move on, but come back to it if you can. And good luck as well.
So I hope that this short summary helps to give you a sense of what the day will be like, help put your mind at ease about what to expect. All we want is for you to be able to do the best that you can on the day itself. If you have any further questions about this or any other aspect of our entrance testing, then please do get in contact with our admissions team. Thank you for watching.